Okay, let's.
Too late now.
That's right. It's too late now. I'm going to go ahead and send it live. What is up, everybody? We are here with another episode of Critique, and we've got something special for you today for sure. We've got, obviously, Joe and I today, as usual, anchoring the critiques, the live critiques. And today we've got Josh Jacobs and Sarkis, who needs no real introduction in the world of no code. Both of these are very active in the world of Webflow, and so we'll give them both just a second. Sarkis, why don't you say hi real quick and introduce yourself to the critique audience?
Hi everyone, my name is Sarkis Manetian. My friends call me Sarko. I am an entrepreneur by day, product designer by night, and my passion is pushing no-code tools to their limits to demonstrate their full potential. And later on this year, I'll be releasing one of my biggest projects, a complete rebuild of the macOS in Webflow.
Nice. Yeah, and if you haven't seen, Sarkis has done some really impressive civilizations rebuild. He built the whole game inside of Webflow, all the interactions, like it's super crazy. So go check out some of his work. It's amazing. And then Josh Jacobs we have here is the Clone Comp OG Grand Champion here. So last year was the first year of Clone Comp. That's right. That's right. Take your take the hype. And so Josh, yeah, say hi to the crew, and then maybe tell us just a little bit about your experience at Clone Comp last year, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, as Raymar said, my name is Josh Jacobs. I'm a senior UX designer at Mural. Come from a background in graphic design, brand design, web design, and now UX. And I've been working in Webflow for a few years now. And yeah, so as was mentioned, I am the reigning Clone Comp champ. Last year's competition was crazy, and I'm sure that this year's is going to be even more nutty. We really got together as a community to do this competition, and I'm really looking forward to doing that again this year. But if you're attending Clone Comp, if you're planning to participate and build, a series of websites in 3 days, there are a few things you should know. The first thing is that it's a roller coaster ride, right? It's fast, it's furious, you get whiplash by the end of it, but it's a really fun time. And there's nothing like going into someone else's Webflow project and not knowing where the heck anything else is. And there's going to be a good amount of that. It was such a fun experience last year. I'm really looking forward to competing this year, and I hope you all bring your A game, because I will.
That's right. And Josh, give us, while we got you full screen here, give us like a nice look at that trophy, like pull that thing up and yeah, stick it in front of that camera.
Absolutely. Be my guest. Crystal engraved.
Wow.
Webflow logo on there. You can use it to hold some peanuts, or take a little sip from it. It's a wonderful little chalice.
Yeah. It's nice. Yeah, it was a cool little touch to be able to create that trophy. We're doing the same kind of thing this year. If you haven't checked out the Clone Comp website, check it out at clonecomp.webflow.io. It's got all the prizes. Actually, next Tuesday, so this coming Tuesday, actually, on the growth stream, we're going to do a full hour dedicated to Clone Comp, AMA. Basically, we're going to be around to answer whatever questions you all have. We'll lock in all the official rules and FAQs. So kind of we've been refining how everything's going to work. We're changing a couple things from last year with feedback from participants from last year, and kind of optimizing it for the scale that I think we're going to see this year. Last year we had 106 total submissions. I think we're going to get more than 200 submissions like on day one of this year's competition. And so yeah, check us out Tuesday right here on the Finsweet YouTube channel. And with that, we will end our Clone Comp commercial and jump right into critique judging. So let's do this. Let's get into our traditional pose here with the judges, and let's remind the audience how everything works. Check
it out.
Okay, so here's how it works.
Each week, the Webflow community will submit websites for us to critique. Members of the Finsweet team, along with guest judges, will get 5 minutes to review each selected site live on air. The judges, along with members of the audience, will then have 45 seconds to submit their scores before we reveal the overall rating for each website and share our final thoughts. Welcome to Critique by Finsweet.
Okay, so that's the game. We got 6 websites today. They've all been notified that their website is being reviewed. For those who are watching at home and participating on your own, the crowd scorecard, Rohan, can we get that posted and pinned in the chat there so that the crowd can participate in the voting? And also, let's see, am I missing anything? Is that it? Do we just get 5 minutes on the clock and get... Let's see real quick. I gotta get to this thing. Yep, the first site is going to be this student assessment. Let's see, remaining assessment, studentassessment.webflow.io. Let's get 5 minutes on the clock. And Joe, is this one you?
It is. It is. And on that first load, let's get another load of this page. I like this intro load. This is the logo. It's moving around. It's getting me interested. Right away, I'm like, what the heck is this? What is reimagining assessment? So this is cool. I like it. Video in the background. It's engaging me already. And as we scroll down, nice use of color on this blue background. And we see this cool little paper airplane flying effect. Now, throughout this page, there are times where I love this flying effect, and there are times where I do not love it. Some of these motions seem so natural for the paper airplane, and then sometimes the motion doesn't feel as natural. So I'm going to ask you to go back on this and really pinpoint when this should be turning, when this should be rotating, to really make me believe that this is a paper airplane. This is a super creative effect. It's keeping me engaged. It's keeping me looking at this site. Awesome. All right, so we continue scrolling down, and this section, if you go up a little bit more, this conversations on assessment, down a little bit. Yeah, right here. So this seems to be a very custom illustration scene. We have some movement. My big problem with this is the typography. It was actually pretty difficult for me to read this, and seeing how clean the rest of your typography is throughout the site, this is kind of throwing me off. So I would either increase the size of this custom type or change it to something a bit more readable. And let's scroll down a bit. Scroll down a bit. Cool use of color. Okay, let's look at this section. This is super cool. This is incredibly creative. We have all of these references. We have this cool book effect. We have these illustrations on the side. I don't think these illustrations are necessary. They're cool. It seems to be on brand. It's following the right color palette. But I just think there's too much happening here. I really want to focus on this book. And I think this super important information is a bit too small. So I would take this book and actually increase it much larger. Get rid of these side illustrations, and let's get this super important info a bit larger on the page. And if you go up just a little bit more to this title, we have a title to the books. Go or down, either one. Yeah, workload right here. So this is like the title to the book, the group's book, the workload book of information here. This workload section is like, it's just a little too boring for me. We have so much cool visuals on the site and so much cool color use on the site, and then that's just kind of lacking. So what I would like you to consider is swapping that illustration background to be in those titles. Get that up there, get that title much more appealing to look at, and then get that book full screen so I can really enjoy this great content. So these are the big things that I saw when I was scrolling through this. Overall, it's a really cool site. There's a lot of nice things about it, but these are the things I would go back and change.
Great. Let's hear what Sarkis, give us some thoughts here on this thing as you go through. What did Joe miss, or what do you agree or disagree with? Oh, the book's open and close as you go through.
I appreciate.
It's
I appreciate Joe's feedback on this. There's a lot of cool ideas here, but I feel like sometimes the ideas kind of clash with each other. When you have too much going on, it's sometimes you come across, like, let's say a dessert, right? And it looks really nice, and then you take a bite of it, it's like so many flavors, so many ingredients, you just get lost. Like, what did I just eat? So I feel like when you first come here, it really wants to sell you on the story of this product, and that's fantastic. I love that. So I feel like just balancing that story is key here. There are, of course, little details here and there. As product designers, we can always go in and say, well, the button effects and this and that can always be improved. But the fact that they took such a risk, to create an entire website that essentially acts as almost like a trailer for their product, I feel is quite exciting. That's good. So great. Kudos to the team.
Nice. Thanks. Josh, what are you thinking?
Yeah. At first blush, I really love a lot of the things that are happening on the site, and I agree with a lot of the feedback that has been said before me. There were a few things that I noticed immediately when I was on the site. When I look at any site, there's three things that I'm looking for: usability, consistency, and then what are the key differentiators? What makes a site pop? What makes it, really stand out? So from a usability standpoint, there are a few things that I think are sticking out to me on the site. In that top blue section underneath the hero, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but those icons actually have text that display when you hover over them. And I think this is something that's been harped on in previous critiques. There's no signifier to let me know, like, oh, this is something that's hoverable. There's content in here. It might be useful for our user's journey. So some kind of signifier there to let me know that this is something that's interactive would be super useful. Also, if you scroll down to the conversations on assessment, the thing that Joe was talking about earlier with the custom illustration that moves around, I've really expected these almost tab headers to be clickable. And I don't know if it's just my machine, but I can't click those. It's sort of a frustrating user experience to have something which looks like it should be clickable, but isn't clickable. So there are a few usability things here that I think could really be improved upon, but very cohesive. A lot of key differentiators that make the site, different from other white plain sites we've seen before. So really wonderful job in that regard.
Yeah, it does have some nice touches in here, so I agree with all of that. We're well over time on the assessment site, so we're going to jump right into the scores here. Rohan, go ahead and open up the form for the public voting, and we can get the crowd score started, and then judges. This is your first chance to share your thoughts on the site, so we're going to throw 45 seconds on the clock, and go ahead and cast your scores. And just remember, we're looking at the overall aesthetic of the website. What does that feel like when you first hit that page? What are you thinking when you explore the site there? And then the story is going to be the content itself. So what's the copy tell you? What's the message being delivered? Is there something there that is captivating from a story standpoint? That's what we're looking for with that. Flair is going to be your interactions. So Flair is going to be, do you want to keep scrolling down the page for any reason? Does this drive you to explore the site in more detail? And then finally, usability is, how easy is it to navigate the site? What is holding you back from maybe exploring the site in a more useful way? So anyway, that's how those things break down. As always, we start at the bottom of the pack. We start with the lowest score and work our way up to the top. And this time we've got, guest judges coming in. Let's see. Guest judges coming in strong at 625, 6.25. Both Sarkis and Josh have kind of the same score, actually the exact same score on all the different categories. Joe sees it just a little bit higher at a 6.50, and I gave it a pretty high Flair score, which gives me a 6.75. There's something about that. I'm just going to explore a site. When I see this kind of visuals, I'm just going to go down. Like, I might not read the site. It might not actually do you any good. I just kind of want to see the art, and I think at a certain level, like, I don't know if that gets you any value or not, but let's see what the crowd thought. The crowd gives it a 6.91. Okay, so the crowd is the highest of the scores so far, giving us a total combined score of 6.53 for the studentassessment.webflow.io site, which is, that's a pretty good score. So let's go ahead and close that up. The next site is Loggins. Chris Loggins has recently been fairly active in the community, and so it's cool to see him submitting a site here. And it does look like we lost Sarkis just for a second. So let's see who's... Oh, Josh, this is you leading this one. So we'll give Sarkis just a little bit of time to see if he can get back in, put 5 minutes on the clock, and send it.
Okay. Yeah. So I think the Loggins site that we're looking at has a lot of interesting elements. There are also a lot of opportunities. The first thing I noticed, and I'm sure some of y'all noticed as well, is that Loggins logo is the Webflow logo font. Like, I don't know, little Easter eggs like that I think are really wonderful. But when I get into the... No problem. But when I get into the nuts and bolts of the site, I think there are a few things that are really tripping me up. The hero space is really empty. It feels dry. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity here to maybe inject personality, inject your tone of voice and style here, and it's a bit of a missed opportunity up there. I like the featured projects section. I think that it's clean. I think that it's, it does the projects themselves justice. But one thing I did notice when I was looking through this site actually is there's a bit of an inconsistency in the nav, and this speaks to the usability thing which I was talking about earlier. If you click on a link in the nav, some of them open in the same tab, some of them open in a new tab, some of them drop you down the page. So I don't know if that was just a bug on my experience, but anytime that a primary nav is taking me to a new tab, it's got to be for a good reason, right? And I don't think that we're there. So otherwise, it's pretty clean, pretty simple website, and I'll pass it off to the next fellow.
Yeah, Sarkis, give us your thoughts here on the Loggins website.
I think what Josh said about consistency is so on point. And it doesn't just apply to this particular website, but I think that's one of the biggest issues I have with most no-code websites, is because a lot of people approaching this, I'm not specifically talking about Chris Loggins here, I'm talking about just in general, they're not really product-minded specifically, so they'll just kind of go with, well, this looks really nice. Or this particular effect would be captivating if someone saw this, but it just, again, ends up incoherent. So it's very, very important. If you're going to create a menu, make it clear. Is this going to open somewhere else? Is it going to open over here? Another good example, just to reflect back on the previous website just real quick, is sometimes you look at elements, you're not really sure. Am I supposed to be just looking at this, or am I supposed to actually using it? Am I supposed to be interacting with this content? Overall, I think with this particular website, because it's so simple, it shouldn't have these kind of inconsistencies. It's really straightforward. And I also think because it's so simple, I mean, if you look at the other pages, they aren't really that complicated. You could create a one-pager, or at least have those transitions on the same page. So it saves me time. It doesn't make me feel like I have to go to another page again. Very often you'll see this where it's like there's too many transitions, there's loading screens and so on. Like for something this simple especially, do you actually need all these swipes? Do you actually need all this, all the spaz, if you will, all these interactions happening? It doesn't need to be there. If you're going for simple, then be simple. If you want to be really like storytelling and going wild with that, go wild with it. That's fine. But pick a style and stick to it. So I think, consistency in your storytelling is very important. And but overall, I have to say the simplicity of it, I enjoyed it. I think there are some elements that are just a little too big, where it could just be a little more elegant, a little more polished. But other than that, I think it's straightforward.
Yeah, and to harp on the other thing, I don't think there's any reason. I think it's maybe just like you got to clean up some of those links. I don't think there's because it doesn't take you. It's all taking you to the same site. So I think, Chris, you probably just need to update some of those links. Same thing here with this Let's Talk. It takes me to the Webflow URL, so that looks like a hard-coded link. That again just takes me to a whole new URL there, as opposed to staying on the loggins.cc official URL. I tend to agree with most of the other comments here. It's a very clean, understated site. I think you could tighten this up with more density. I think Sarkis, that point was a good one about this could all kind of be on one big page and be a little bit more effective. Joe, have we missed anything so far? We'll give you the last minute here.
Yeah. Well, first, I really want to say, Chris, thank you for submitting. Chris, I think I met him last week, and he told me he was brand new to Webflow. Mm-hmm. So really cool that you've come and built this site, and you submitted it for us to review. So great job, Chris. So my feedback here, Chris, you need to put more of yourself in this site. When I scroll through the homepage, I do not know who Chris is. I don't know who Loggins is. I don't know what's going on. There's not enough visual here, and you have the visual to back it up. If you go into the projects and you go into the case studies, you will see his visual work. It is good. I want to see this on the homepage. I don't want to see these preview links or these preview projects. Right, Mark, can you scroll down a little bit?
Yep, sorry.
To the projects on the homepage. This, I mean, it almost looks like stock photography. Like, you know, that's a Photoshop template and you put the logo on it and that's like a stock photo. But when you go into these projects, it's good stuff. Let's see that on the homepage. On the About Me page, we see the photo of you. That's a little bit into Chris, but overall the design does not say, hey, I'm Chris Loggins. I'm going to build this site for you. And that's what I'm looking for here. But overall, good, clean site. This is a nice start to your Webflow career, Chris. And thanks for submitting again.
Yeah, great feedback.
Actually,
from
real quick,
everyone.
Raimar.
Yeah, go ahead.
Raimar, if I may, just real quick. To Joe's point, I actually just saw it. I was going through project pages, and if you go to the retoucher, giving a retoucher a touch up, like there's actually a splash where you can see it with like helping creators connect with inspiration, innovation tools, and then there's like a menu stuff. That actual page, that little snapshot, looks better than the actual website. That would be a better landing page if you think about it, you know. So and also you'll notice like transitions between pages, like some of them have that transition, some of them don't. So obviously knowing now having a little more awareness on, a little more context on Chris and the fact that he's new to Webflow and he's already been able to achieve this is actually very impressive. But yeah, definitely if you already have this much color and you know, this much content to work with, you know, I didn't see that originally, so I assumed that this person maybe doesn't have a very big portfolio. So they want to go with a little more simple kind of approach, just present themselves rather than their work. But if you have so much content, I mean, that's almost criminal. Like you should be building your website around your content, not around you.
Yeah.
Your content is you. So I feel like that's missing a little bit here. I absolutely agree. Thanks for sharing that, Joe.
All right. I haven't done this yet, and I apologize. I wanted to say hi to the folks in the crowd here. So we do have Magdalena, Ariel, Victor's in the house. I do see Chris is watching, so Chris is probably hanging out listening to this feedback right now. What's up, Chris? Good work on the site. Keep pushing your Webflow skills. Babas is here. Rock and Roll CEO Jordan, Penny, Joshua Fry. Oh, what's up? Josh is the runner-up at Clone Comp, so he's probably watching Josh over there looking at that trophy like, damn, I need to get one of those. Shihads is in the house. Colleen, he's here. Carrie Craver, what's up? What's up? What's up? Slawek. Let's see, Rohan, Dale, Piers, Grace Walker, what's up? Pixel Geek is here. Hey, what's up, Pixel Geek? Not sure if you're still in the crowd or not, but hello. Anyway, Brandon. Okay, so there we go. Hello to everyone in the crowd. Be sure to leave your thoughts, leave your comments about the websites as we go through. We like to see some of those as we go, even though we don't always recognize them. But let's go ahead and get 45 seconds on the clock here. Oh, that's the wrong one. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. We're going to do this instead, and we're going to get 45 seconds on the clock. Hit the right here. Story is the messaging and the content itself. Flair is going to be interactions, kind of like the fancy fun stuff. Is it pulling you down the website? And then the usability is how easy is it to get around the site. So let's get those scores in. We'll let the crowds cast their scores. Any final words of wisdom for Chris here?
You know, if I may, one of the best things about no code is the ability to iterate, right? You start from one place and you can pick up and improve either like in small ways or in big ways. I think that, you know, at least with the site, you have a clean, minimalist approach that you can build on top of. You know, the last site we saw had a lot of elements. It's very difficult to add and iterate on top of that. At least with this, you know, you have a clean, simple site. And I look forward to seeing what you put together next.
Yeah, this would be a great redemption round candidate, Chris. Be cool to see some of this feedback taken to heart and then resubmitted. So let's go through the scores here. As always, we start at the bottom, which for this one will be Sarkis at a 3.75. Let's see, up from there, we go to Josh at a 4.75. And then I come in at a 5.0, and Joe's got it at a 5.5. And yeah, pretty various scores all the way across. Let's see, that gives us a judge's average of 4.75, which is just underneath the crowd. The crowd gave us a 5.33 on this website, which brings us to a total combined score of 4.87. Which is still, you know, hey, that's a respectable score for an early stage Webflow dev. And like Josh said, you've got a lot of, there's a lot of flexibility with what you have here to take it to the next step. So it will be cool to see that evolve. Let's get the next one up, Project Exodus. So let's pull the scores here. Let's get the URL up on the site. And is this one Sarkis? Who's doing this one?
Yeah, this is mine.
Okay, got 5 minutes.
So,
or
yeah,
2 minutes, sorry. 2 minutes.
Sure. So first, going through the content here, I noticed that there's some inconsistency. So look at the cover. On my screen, I'm noticing there's like a white bar at the bottom. So the cover just feels like it's not full width, full height. So it bothers me just a little bit. That initial impression just seems a little bit off. I feel like it's a missed opportunity to have just kind of like just one single photo with just some text on it. You could definitely flare it up a little more to take it further. I think that going down the page, I'm noticing a little more interaction. So when you go through our heart, our mission, and so on, that's great. But the content, just having so much content, like blocks of text, essentially, I feel like it's too much. You know, especially when you talk about your mission and your heart and so on and so forth. I mean, as someone who's very passionate about his own work, you know, I know what it's like as a creator. You want to put everything on the table. You want everyone to know where you're coming from, but you got to know how to pick your words. You know, less is more. If you were talking about a specific product, I could say, yeah, you know, he had a lot to say, and it was hard to pack that all in. But when it's something that's more personal, let's say, something more informal, I don't think you should be using too many words. Get to the bottom of it. Why am I actually here? What am I supposed to be doing? So I think that's really important. Their padding, like you'll notice when you scroll down from our heart, our mission, and your story, there's this gigantic, padding margin right over there that bothers me, and it doesn't feel very comfortable. And then when you click the arrow that's pointing down, you can't actually click on it. So again, it's like what Josh was mentioning before, right? Well, do I click on it? Do I not click on it? So once you make a few errors, let's call them user errors, if you will. After a while, you start to assume that, well, you know what, I just don't get this website. I'm just going to assume that, I don't know how to use it or it's broken. So definitely, think about the user experience. Do you want someone to click on this or not? If it's an arrow, it's a button. You need to understand that most people will assume that is a button. You want them to click on that. Make sure that you're meeting those expectations. Then when you go below, I'm noticing these animations for the actual boxes. I'm assuming they're like blogs or other additional pages here, menus and so on. I feel like that those animations are a little bit out of place. They're not really fitting with the rest of the page. The rest of the page feels a little static, and then suddenly you come to this page with all these, the footer seems more interesting than the actual header or anything else on the page. So make it a little more consistent there. The animations are a little janky. I'm noticing, some imperfections there. There's obviously a lot more pages here in the recovery page. I haven't had time to go over each one of them. Yeah. I'm seeing the website now.
Yeah, that's good feedback. Let's pass it off to Josh here. What are you thinking as you see anything Sarkis missed?
Sure. There are a few things I think could be tweaked on the site. Sure. I know we talked about width of text before and in a number of different critique shows, how that can impede readability. Got a lot of full width, sections, which I think if you just shrank down a little bit would really help the site breathe. But to Sarkis's point, there are a few buggy type things that I think kind of get in the way. When I was browsing the site, I ran into a number of either slow page loads or mismatching loading animations. And that sort of set me off. And I know that Sarkis talked about these at the bottom, but these cards are actually a bit of a usability, I wouldn't say nightmare, but they're a little challenging. I would expect to be able to click on these, but instead you hover, and then the CTA is actually at the bottom. The whole thing itself is not clickable, which would be something that I would just make it clickable, the whole thing. You don't have to necessarily hover over it, but then if you do hover over it, you get a little bit more context. So that's all I'd say.
And because of how fast Webflow out of the box loads, I was wondering why this site's loading so slow, and the only thing I could come up with is maybe these images are huge, right? Like maybe these.
I checked. They're not.
Okay, so
nope.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And there is something else happening here too. Watch when I reload this page on this section, I get this like interactive counting something or other, but then it disappears. And I don't see that if I reload the page at the top. I only see that when I load the page over that section at the bottom there. So there's definitely something weird happening, right, with that section. I don't know. Joe, what do you think? We'll give you the last minute here.
Yeah, I think the biggest focus needs to be text and typography. I see so many different styles, so many different sizes. While everybody was speaking, I was an inspector looking at how you're managing these typography classes. I saw 14 pixels, I saw 16, I saw 18, I saw 20, I saw 26, I think I saw 24. That's a lot of typography styles, and I didn't even look at all of them. So I really think that you should have a more global and unified typography class system. Don't go too far off of your normal heading styles or off of your normal padding styles, and only do it in special occasions, not every single piece of text. And things like this, we have way too large of a max width here. We have really small line height. And I think if you go through and you really focus on organizing this text so that it all looks clean, it's all unified, that this site's going to be much, much more impressive.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to point out that I just realized here, this is something to pay attention to just as it relates to calls to action. You have two different main kind of calls to action here, and I don't know what start now means, right? Like, what am I starting, right? Am I starting a path to recovery? Am I starting a new relationship with a counselor? Am I starting a new workout routine? Like, what is that? You know, and lots of people
starting my donation.
Yeah, right. So like, I think these are things more so than the design. You know, like these are the things that make a real difference on a website, because now you've confused potentially a user. And so while the visuals should support that story, that other stuff should be fairly kind of very directed, right? Like, Don't Make Me Think is a great book, you know, as it relates to like web things and web interfaces. And online users want fast, immediate. They want to know exactly what they're doing. Am I on this page for a reason or not? And so don't forget, while you're trying to make your site look pretty, that you got to make it a little functional too for, you know, for the calls to action, if you want those to actually be effective at converting people. So let's go ahead and put 45 seconds on the clock. Let's see what the for scory here. Let's see. I'm going to cast my votes real quick, and then I want to look at the comments in YouTube, see what's coming in here. Jay saying, great start. Look at creating copy max with around 500 pixels and add some more line space for copy. Yeah, for sure. Kind of following some of what Joe was saying there on the top text. Brandon Hadding, this is the first website we've ever built. Okay, just decided to do it and lock down for our NGO. Really looking forward to this. So Brandon, hopefully we did not take it too hard on you there. Hopefully you got some really good feedback about what you can do to take this site to the next level. So let's take a look.
Reimar, if I may, just real quick, because I reviewed this website. I think the biggest issue I have, I was just going through every page, is that each page feels like it's a completely different website. It's not, if you know, like the home page and the projects page, you know, these other pages, they just have nothing to do with each other. Some of them even have toggles where you can literally switch between dark and light. And I'm like, all these individual ideas are great, just like individual ingredients. But you just threw like a bunch of cinnamon into my into my soup or whatever it is you were trying to make. And I'm just like, okay, that flavor didn't really make sense. So that's why, just so that everyone understands my score, the reason why I'm giving that score is because, again, consistency. I'd rather it be bad but consistent rather than have great elements but they just don't match with each other. You know, so please go back to those pages. And, you know, and Joe's point again about the text, again, consistency, right? You have so many styles. So how can you be consistent when you have so many headings? You have to create that style sheet and then work from there, and then be like, okay, here is the 5 pages I'm going to create, and see what happens from there. So best of luck, guys.
I agree with that, and I wanna also say that I kind of appreciate this like type of exploration. If this is one of your first sites, Brandon, and you're just like grabbing clonables and experimenting with interactions, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna just try to build something to play and learn, like, keep pushing it, right? Like this is probably not a super usable website. It's not going to win any accessibility awards, but I bet you learned a shit ton putting this together. And sometimes that's what it takes to take some of that learning into your next project and to grow and to really succeed at some of this. So I really want to encourage anyone that was watching this and thinks, maybe these scores are too harsh or the critique is too harsh. We see you learning out there, and this is part of learning. But let's get into the scores here. Let's see. Sarkis, I think, was preempting because he knew his score was coming in hot here at a 3.0. Josh is just above that at a 3.75. I'm a quarter notch above that at a 4.0, and Joe's coming in at a 5. So that gives us a combined judges average of a 3.94, which is about a half a point under the crowd, just over half a point. So the crowd gives this, come on now. Okay, the crowd gives it a 4.58, which gives us a total combined score of 4.07 for the project Nexus.nex. Okay, so that's not bad again for a first site. There's a lot of room to improve here and grow. So thanks for being brave and taking a swing, sending this site in as your first project. It's great to see that. So, all right, let's pull these scores back. We've got this webvega.de, and I think Sarkis, this one's you too, right? You had 2 in a row.
Should we do Joe's just to mix it up?
Yeah.
Impact Investor.
What's that?
Let's do. How about we do Impact Investor and then come back?
Okay, let's do it. Let's do Impact Investor.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump to this URL. 5 minutes and send it.
Nice. Okay. Impact Investor. First thought here is I need some more visual. And that goes for this entire homepage. That I'm scrolling through this thing. I see text. It's neat. It's organized. I know what's going on, but I want something more visual. This hero image is not doing it for me. If you scroll down a little bit, no visual here. This could be a cool visual. We're close. If you go up to the globe, this is close. And Grant, if you make this much larger, I think this now turns into a really cool section. Yeah, this should be huge. It could be taking up a lot of the space, and it's going to make that text look real nice. And as we continue going down, Grant, I see a really nice opportunity to show off this work here, but it's kind of hidden in the laptop. And when I did my first scroll to the site, I didn't get this scrolling laptop feel, and I didn't actually know it was scrollable. So this visual, I think, is a good thing to put on here, little snippets of these screenshots so that I see what you're trying to present here. I think your text is really good. I think that the way that you're putting the typography on the site works, but I really want to see more visuals for this. And then my final comment for this one is different max widths. These are all over the place. On this homepage, I think I see 3 different max widths for this page. And that it goes from like really small, like this hero, to a little bit bigger, to back small, to a little bit bigger. And then in that call to action towards the bottom, it seems full screen. So I would unify all of these. I don't see a reason why there should be 2 max widths. That this whole thing, this type of site could be 1. If you want to go 2, go 2. Don't go 3. That's my feedback here. Great site overall. And Grant, I know exactly what you're going for here. So this was clear. I did understand what this site's about. And that's very, very important.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to take a swing at some of that. I do think, like you say, the message is fairly clear here. I do have a problem with I have a click cursor here showing up over this section. but it doesn't click anywhere. And it's showing me, like, if we look impact investor, it's got like a hashtag. So it looks like it's pulling an anchor tag link, but there is no anchor connected to it. So again, just indicating, it's just confusing for a user. Like, who knows how long I sat there and clicked on that thinking I could take me somewhere. Same thing with this too. These things are links, but they don't actually take me anywhere. So just be careful with your click targets on some of that. I agree with Joe, like, open this globe up to take up like half of the screen here and just let it be like nice, beautiful, visual. And I think these are clonable elements. If I remember, I think it's Moritz Peters or Peterson or something like that. The guy that does all the Apple rebuilds in Webflow. I think he created this clonable like this. And this is just he probably just grabbed this as a clonable and slapped some section into it. But I agree with what you're saying, Joe. Like, pull this out of that interface or have this like a slider. Don't give me two of the exact same element in a row here. You know, like, that's just, you could build these inside of themselves to where there's a slider inside of it, or just one screen or one laptop, something like that. I don't know. Those would be my initial thoughts. Josh, what say you?
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about these laptops for a second. I know that we keep going back to them, but what we have here is a very vertically tall section that is encouraging the user to browse these designs. I think there is definitely an opportunity here to present these in a way which we don't have to take up so much vertical space, but we can still show our users the design. Like, if it's a vertical marquee, which I clearly love, I put it in everything I do, or if it's just side by side, we don't have to force our users to interact with it to accomplish our goal. And if the goal for this section is to look at the designs, we don't have to make it hard for them to do that. I think that's my challenge with this particular section. I think I agree with what Joe was saying earlier as well about just some of the sizing of elements. I think that there's a bit of maybe a timidity to making things larger. I'd love to see some bigger text on this page. These headlines feel a little small to me. And then the last thing I'll say is these 4 things at the bottom don't currently do anything. I don't know if maybe they're placeholders for future content, but I'd love to maybe throw some content in there that says, like, still working on this, coming soon. And then one last thing. I know I said the last thing was the last thing, but you have a nav. It's very simple. There's 2 primary CTAs in that nav, and once you start scrolling, they're gone. You don't see them anymore. So if you really want people to get started, they have to scroll back up to the top to do your primary action, which is not great. There's no reason that this nav couldn't stick, and then you'd have persistent CTAs. So I think that's an easy win right there.
Sarkis, what say you? We'll give you the final word here.
Oof. Well, okay. First, that logo is way too long. That logo can be, it's just, everything is wordy in this entire website. Everything is wordy. I have to come down a little bit hard on this. I love the motif of actually those circles. It's ironic that, even though I feel like I agree with Joe that it's not that much of a visual, if this website followed that motif and the product followed that motif, it would have been an excellent website. Except you have that motif, and then you have this 3D globe, and then you go down to 2 laptops. 2 laptops, not 1, 2. Why? Like, if you're trying to prototype your product, why not prototype it? From what I see, the design you have right now, it's already built in Webflow. So you already have the components. So why not give me a preview of the product instead of charging me $99? That right there really bothered me. The pricing really bothered me. Like, you're not giving me enough. Like, even though you make it lifetime access, not monthly, it might seem like it's not a big deal, but $99 for something, you have to earn my trust for that, so, and then making the links not clickable. You realize that from a user's perspective, I'm not even talking as a product designer, just a user. If 4 of your links don't work, I assume that nothing works. So I don't know what you're doing in this website. And then from there, we go into the shadow effects of these bars. The shadow effects are not consistent. We go even deeper and deeper into it. And then again, I go back to that price and I'm like, is he actually asking me for $99? So I'm not treating this as a, critique show. We're all friends here. We're going to review this together and see where we goes from here. This is a product you're asking me to pay for. So this needs to be taken down. You should be fixing this, and then you should put this back up. Because I mean, this doesn't just give a bad name to like Webflow or anything. It's no code, and there's so many examples like this that just frustrates me. Is like you represent all of us in a way because people know that this is made using no code tools. I love that you're hustling. I love what you're building. I read the text actually while everyone else was critiquing it, and I'm like, this is a great opportunity. Except you don't know what you're trying to tell me. It's like, are you trying to give me this fun visual experience with the GIFs? You know, we see that a lot. Pablo Stanley, shout out to Pablo. He popularized that a lot in the no-code community. Are you going for that look? Are you going for the more sophisticated look? Like, I love what you did, Grant. I love what you did with the, you know, just the globe and you got the text over there. That's in the white, gray, white, gray, white, gray approach would have worked really well, for example, you know? And just to kind of wrap up here, also, I mean, when you're asking me again to sign up, that's another opportunity to remind me of what I'm signing up for. So again, it's just like, why am I here? What am I doing here? So I feel like tell that story a little more consistently. Don't pummel me with a lot of text, and definitely take down those 2 laptops. I mean, back to back.
I'm gonna cut you here. We're well over time, and to be honest, like I think you're taking a little hard on this guy. This is like somebody's web hustle, man, and we live in the internet. Like, go get your shit, dog. If somebody's paying you $99, maybe he's offering value in some other way, right? It could be that he's got some kind of community and he's just trying to get onto the web and figuring this thing out. So let's have a, I hear you, right? So like, I hear what you're saying. And in a perfect world, we'd all be like the best web developers ever. And we'd all be perfect with our calls to action and all of our copy and stuff. But this show is about like helping people learn and improve.
Reimar, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
No,
I got to cut in there.
Hold up.
When 4 of the links aren't working.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
The hustle doesn't go.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to mute you. The goal of the show is to help people learn, not to tear people down. So I appreciate the thoughts, and we're just going to give the scores. All right, so crowd, you've got an option to give your shot here, and I don't expect this to be, you know, like a really well scored site, but I don't expect a lot of people are converting on this either. And that's part of the process here. It's learning, it's building, it's trying, it's getting feedback from people like us, and then trying again. So I tend to have a little bit of empathy for people who are exploring and trying to learn from us, right? So let's just have a little empathy on that side for some of those things. So let's go ahead and get 45 seconds on the clock, and let's get the scores from the judges. And I'll unmute. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, and I think there's a place for strong, like, I think there's a place for strong feedback like that, because I think a lot of times people do just, you know, take the easy way, or they think like, well, you know, I'm learning how to design webs and that's exciting. But I think people are challenging themselves too. So I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't know who this person is. I don't know what their skill set is. I don't know what their position in life is. So anyway.
Also,
I'm not coming
keep
down
in
to
mind
you
that
I think you'll do a better product. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Please keep in mind that we don't know, like Reimar said, we don't know who this person is and how good they are. This could be their very, very first website. Let's say hypothetically, first ever website, and that, I don't know. You know, Sarkis is so talented. Josh, so talented, and other people are just not as talented, and that is just a reality, and that's okay. So yeah, I also thought that the comments were a little bit harsh. I thought some of them were valid, but yeah, I just want to say I do want this to be more of a learning experience. That I'm sure Grant actually appreciated what you said, Sarkis. I do know Grant personally. I was on one of his podcast shows, and I think that he will actually take your comments and implement those. Yeah. So there's a good side to it. There's a bad side to it. But let's review these scores here.
And I kind of like it, you know, like I'm glad to have like different opinions on all this. I think that's what the fun is of bringing lots of people in. So yeah, I like no hard feelings. I think this is this is all learning for all of us. So let's go ahead and show the scores.
I appreciate the hustle, and I appreciate the hustle. I appreciate all the feedback. I didn't mean to be too hard, but I do feel like if you're asking for that kind of money, you got to come. At least your links need to work.
I hear that. I do hear that. Okay, so I actually, all that said and done, I got the lowest score on the board here. So I do give this a 2.5 here. Let's see, next up is Sarkis at a 3.0. Josh gives it a 3.5, and Joe's quite a bit higher at a 5.75, which gives us a judge's average of 3.69. And that's under the score of the crowd, which is a 4.25. So we're about 3/4 of a point away from the crowd score, which gives us a total combined score of 3.80. So yeah, there's a lot of room for improvement there. Feel free to send this back as a redemption round candidate. And I wanted to, let's see. All right, so now we're going back to this Vega site, and who was it in the comments here? Let's see. Azrael was saying, yeah, we're going to do the Webvega site. We're not going to skip it. We just didn't want to do Sarkis leading twice in a row there. But this one's up for Sarkis. So you got 5 minutes on the clock, and take it away.
Thank you. First of all, I mean, this is in German, so I don't speak German. But I translated the website to get kind of an idea of what's going on here. So it's become an eye catcher and generate new customers. I'm looking at the English version. So I guess it's a clear design, aesthetics, and latest web technologies. So it's a web design firm, I'm assuming. So when you first come in, you'll notice the horizontal bar immediately. And, you know, when we see those kind of mistakes, it just comes, it's very jarring, you know, from a user perspective. You just kind of give up. After a while, you're like scrolling, and then the page just keeps shifting from left to right because you're not scrolling correctly, especially if you're on the trackpad, you know, it gets a little difficult. I do see some nice effects here. I like to hover on the chosen projects, for example. I mean, styling-wise, I'm not going to spend too much time on going on the stylings. There's obviously a lot of things that can be styled a little more consistently. But the homepage immediately is just, especially if someone has epilepsy or some issues like that, that immediate jarring, you know, that effect is very dangerous. Be careful with things like that. I come in, it's very peaceful. I see this nice green, you know, flow, whatever the goo, whatever you want to call it. And then right after that, I just move my mouse, and then it just starts flashing the screen. That's actually very dangerous. That's a health hazard. That's not a design motif. That's a health hazard. Be careful with that. So I see these boxes at the bottom. We'll reflect on that in a minute. I do like the logo section. I like how, you know, it's clean. You have a slight hover effect. They're not, you know, less is more. I like that. As you go down the page, it feels like, again, the page, the padding, the margins, and so on just seems to be a little bit out of place. So it's a little tough to go through. But I feel like there is a story they're trying to tell. I like the elements, like when you get to the bottom where you have the Lottie animations now with the boxes rotating and so on. Like that's pretty neat. But it's not working very well on my screen because there's too much happening. You have to make these animations consistent. Otherwise, at some point, I just assume you're trying to be flashy, right? Beautiful things don't ask for attention. They're appreciated. They don't try to flash at you. They try to walk by, and you appreciate it for that. So I feel like trying to say too much, and see, when I go down, now I'm seeing all the text with all these colorful, you know, gradients on them and so on. It's like there's just too much happening. And then right towards the end, as I scroll down, I see a zoom out, you know, with the presentations, with the graphics and so on. So again, it just felt like there was a little too much happening. When we scroll into the pages, just to wrap up here, it's just opening on my end. Give me a moment. Here we go. Yeah, so if you go into some of the projects, I like that it's very clean. I like that the content is consistent. The text, the typography, the styles that you've chosen to tell the story of that project is very clean and neat. I do feel like that page could serve as a better reference for you for the homepage. So the homepage can be a little more aligned with that. Like, especially when you look at the footer and so on, like some of the sections aren't really that consistent. But that was immediately the thing that caught my eye. And also, just last but not least, there isn't really anything Gaussian blurry in this website. Like the menu being Gaussian blurred, I'm not really sure it fits that well with your experience. And also keep in mind that I'm noticing as you scroll down on the home page, the menu bar actually stays with you as you scroll down, right, for a while. And then when you go to another page or you scroll down a little further, it just hides. So I'm not really sure, is it meant to stay with me as I go down, or is it meant to just hide away? Yeah, so let's be a little consistent with that. But those are the immediate things that I saw.
Cool. Let's go ahead and jump to Josh on here. Josh, what are you thinking here?
Yeah. I think a lot of time was given to make this homepage very flashy. There are a lot of effects that I think are very neat, and whether or not they work on all devices, it shows ambition, which I clearly get from the hero. I clearly get from some of the scrolling interactions. Whether or not they further the user's primary goal of learning more about your organization, but they look nice, and I think that they are kind of cool. One thing that wasn't really mentioned necessarily, I think, is that the project pages themselves are actually, they have a lot of information, which is great. I think there's only the 2 right now, but you get into these projects and there's a lot to digest here. But the rest of the site feels kind of bare bones, which doesn't necessarily, gel with the vibe that you're getting on the homepage of this, a level 11, things turning, things flashing, things moving. So, that sort of stuck out to me. But I think, I think it's cool.
Yeah. I'm going to point out just 2 little inconsistencies that I saw, and then I'll pass it over to Joe. When this menu does come down, okay, so it looks like it's trying to scroll up and down based on my scroll, but I don't know if it could be my screen stalling for CPU usage or what here, but also sometimes I see that the blur is over top of the little scroll indicator, and sometimes it's not. So sometimes it's like that hard, just green, and then sometimes I get this menu that comes over it and blurs it out. So just a little bit of consistency, a little bit of refinement. There's some good bones here. Joe, what are you seeing as you go through the Webvega site?
Yeah, on this homepage, the small text is just way too small for me. I'm looking at your class text label, and that's a 12 pixel font size, just too small. I have to lean into my screen to read that. And the big thing for me is horizontal scroll. That on your homepage, you are creating horizontal scroll with your 2 very cool animations. And you can fix this by applying an overflow hidden to your section gallery class and your section device class. That seems to fix the issue when it's applied to both of those classes. Overall, really good. I think this is a really, really nice site. And with those 2 changes, I'd make it, I'd be very happy with it.
Nice. I do want to point out too another hang on. I want to point out another thing. These I'm getting a hover, like a link effect on these, but they don't link anywhere. So again, just be careful if you're using link blocks for hover effects or whatever. I'm not sure why you would do that, or if you're changing the cursor manually. But typically, expected user behavior is if this arrow turns into a little finger pointer, I should be able to click that and take it somewhere, and I'm not able to do that. So what's up, Sarkis, on the last point?
Oh, I was just saying I just checked the services page. It's not working at all. And also the boxes, they're not consistent with the boxes on the home page. So if you made it consistent, add a nice image into it, made it clickable, because again, we have that clicking issue here. Yeah. The services page would be very useful, but right now it just says web design, logo design, SEO, and nothing else. I can't click on anything, nothing works. So just seeing that, I would not pay for your services as a user. So I think improving that would go a long way with your product. Yeah. Even more so than the horizontal scroll or anything else. Your services is what you're selling, so that page needs to be complete.
Yeah, a big one on this one to me seems to be the consistency, just in general. So just make sure, taking some meticulousness throughout the site and make sure you're being as consistent as possible. So let's get 45 seconds on the clock. Let's go ahead and get that scorecard open. And let's get the live scores in for the Webvega site. Let's see, we'll give that a okay, story. It's always hard on the story ones with different language sites, Okay, Flare. Okay.
I will say that when you do a Google Translate to English, I like the messaging. It's a good message. So I'm sure also a good message in German.
Okay. Ugh. I need I need like extra CPU, guys. I need some extra CPU. Who's got some extra CPU for me? Okay. All right. So as always, we start at the bottom of the pack and work our way up on the scores. So we've got Sarkis coming in at a 4.75 on the Webvega site. Oh, actually, Sarkis and I are tied at the 4.75. And then let's see, Josh comes in at a 5.0 above that. And Joe is above all that at a 6.5. So Joe's been the high scorer today. Let's see, judges average.
I like this one, yeah.
Yeah, judges average of 5.25. Cool. This hero kind of reminded me of like some Stripe action, you know, that little gradient blurry thing there. So crowd comes in at a 4.6, which gives us a combined score of 5.01 for the Webvega.de site. And I'm thinking we may end up. Oh no, this was not one of these sites. Okay, this is the last one, right? We are Kibana. I think that's all we got left on the. Yeah, because we did the impact investor already, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, and Josh, I do believe this is you, correct?
Sure. Yep.
All right. So last one. Get 5 minutes on the clock. Whenever you're ready, boss.
Okay. Well, I submitted this website. I saw it pop up in the showcase a day or two ago, and I did submit this with websites, is that they tend to be lots of square white boxes, more or less. And so whenever I see something that does something a little different, I think it should be celebrated. You know, I think this site has a lot of great things going for it. It's got some beautiful type, really good size of its type, and it's not just a white website. You know, it's got this nice cream color, a vibrant yellow, and then while the yellow might not be great for readability, it definitely gives that key differentiator that I think some of those more clean and simple sites don't necessarily have. I will say, you know, the smooth scrolling is a little annoying. I know that we talk about that sometimes, and some of these elements feel like there might be a little bit too much space, especially, you know, the hero scrolling past the hero takes 2 full scrolls for me to get into the content, which might be a problem, but it looks really good. There's some really fun animations that are happening, and I think that this site was very well designed for a simple one-pager. So with that, I will pass it on to whoever's next.
Awesome, Joe. We'll give you the next minute.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this one. This is cool. Really nice use of colors. I think it's really interesting how the text is laid out, that this is very much not a normally laid out website. So it's really cool, really creative. A lot of things that you don't see on many websites, like Josh is saying. Colors, great. My big issue, like Josh said, is this smooth scrolling. This is driving me nuts. I think it's really taking away from this experience. And it almost makes it feel like the site is slow. It's giving me this feeling that it's lagging and it's not it's not reacting to me. I guess that's what scroll jacking is. So yeah, if that was removed, I think the usability would go way up.
Nice. Sarkis.
Well, there are no winners or losers. I think every product we saw today had its own kind of unique take on what they were trying to say. Some simple, some elegant, some complex. So that's really great, and I love the hustle. But this particular website, I think, really was a step up. You can really see the amount of effort that went into each section of this website, what he was trying to do. What really caught my attention was the team section. When you scroll down and then you see those little squares just push the text apart and just kind of almost like coming out of a bush. I really like that effect. I really enjoy the slide in from the right. This is good storytelling, and it would be much better story if the smooth scrolling was definitely resolved. I agree with that. And finally, I think the content could be a little tighter, I think, just so it doesn't feel like I'm going too long. But I feel like it engages me. It wants me to have a visual experience. It doesn't want me to really focus that much on text, which is why I think if there was just a little more balance and some of the animations were tidied up a little bit, I think this website would be very consistent. I haven't checked on mobile yet. I'm wondering how it is on mobile, Joe. Have you had a chance to check that out? Is it consistent there too? Because there's a lot of animations I'm seeing here that I'm wondering how it would look on phone or on an iPad, for example.
Yeah,
but if it works consistently, this is great.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's so much here. There's a refinement on this site that I don't think we've seen on the other sites. There's you could tell this was designed outside of anything. Somebody spent a lot of time coming up with a specific brand and elements and color palettes and illustrations, and then it was compiled into like this web experience. And it does, I want to go back to something Josh said. It's a very non-traditional, and I think Joe touched on it, even the way the font is laid out, right? And so this is pretty simple. It's just in the center of the page, a little hero statement. But the way this comes and covers that up, then got a nice little branding element right on this here. And then from here on out, you almost never see just structured blocks of text like you see on a lot of sites where it's just big blobs. Everything's just kind of like scattered around, and they can be hard to pull off because you could look real raggedy if you do this wrong. But this site does not do it wrong. This site actually does that very well, and it gives you that kind of disconnected but unified look. And so kudos to the designers on this one for, you know, kind of like being able to have so many different like alignments and arrangements and placing of text, but all still making it feel and look good. So shout out on that. I agree with the rest of what all has been said. I expect this site to score pretty good. So let's go ahead and get 45 seconds on a clock, and let's have the judges cast their score. I bet the flare scores will be pretty high on this one, because I wanted to keep scrolling no matter what it said. You know, like I was just gonna scroll and see what was going on that site. Any other final thoughts from the judges as the scores come in?
How about in the souvenirs section? It looks like a great use of a horizontal scroll bar. Or maybe that's not a horizontal scroll bar. Let me take that back. But on the show, we've seen a couple people not take into effect the horizontal scrolling when scrolling horizontally. They did a great job at this.
And
so
you can
really nice and clean.
Slide, so you can grab those elements and slide them, and it does indicate that there's some left or right movement, which, yeah, is a good visual indicator to let you know, hey, you can do something here. Great. Okay, so let's look at the scores. We're gonna start from the bottom. Man, I've been like bringing up the tail. I don't know what happened, but I don't know if I've just been a little harsh today or what. But my scores are at the bottom of the pack, like every time here. So let's see, 7.75, tied with Joe at a 7.75. Sarkis comes in just above that at an 8.0. And Josh gives this thing a 9.0, which is a real strong score. Gives us a judge's average of 8.13, which is real close to the crowd. The crowd came in at 8.56 on this site. So yeah, we're pretty closely aligned there, giving us a total of 8.21 with the We Are Kibana website. So super cool. Let's go and swap it out to this view, and let's get the final thoughts from the judges. Josh, tell me, what was your first clone comp? What was your first critique judge experience like here?
I had a blast, man. I really appreciate y'all letting me come on and lend my weird expertise to looking at some websites. I really appreciate what you guys are doing for the community, bringing us all together and giving us the opportunity to meet one another. I've seen Sarko's work, but I've never got to talk to him before, and you know, that's a real treat for me. And anytime with y'all is a pleasure. So I've really enjoyed myself.
Yeah. There's one thing you can always expect with Sarkis is he speaks his mind, and I love that. I think we both have that in common, where we both, you know, just kind of let it out. And I think we could use more of that in this world. I think a lot of people hold back, and yeah, while the criticisms are sometimes hard to receive, those are the ones you usually grow from the most, right? Like nobody ever grows from hearing how good they are. You almost always grow from hearing where the room for improvement is. So Sarkis, share your thoughts on first experience as a critique judge.
It was fantastic. And Joe, you know, I've told you this personally, and I've said it publicly as well. You guys have been a major inspiration for me. especially when it comes to understanding Webflow over the years. I think that what I love about this community is that all of us, you can find traces of each other in each other's work. Because, but not just because we're using clonables and such, but because you can see the inspiration, you know. And I want everyone else I've been reviewing to know that I'm double critical of myself and my work. And that's actually why the Mac OS or anything else I've been trying to build is taking so long, is because I keep coming after myself in the morning, you know. So it's all coming from a place of love. And I love you guys. I appreciate you. Please keep going, keep hustling. The main thing is, it's all great when you're asking for feedback from the community, but the moment you ask someone to pay, you're on an equal level playing field where you have to be judged according to any other products in the world. And I hope that that feedback was useful to you, all of you. And I'm here. You can reach out to me on Twitter anytime, and I'd be happy to help out, reach, and share more feedback with you. Thank you so much for having me on.
For sure. Hey, real quick, before we give Joe a word to wrap up, Josh, how can people, somebody's asking you in the comments, how can they follow or get a hold of you? You need to get on Twitter, by the way. Like the fact that you're not on Twitter, come on, seriously. So share.
I will sign up today.
Yeah,
I will sign up today for Twitter. I don't know what the handle's going to be, but I'll sign up. I know. I did a social media detox like in 2018, and it's very difficult to find me. But I am on Facebook. I'm in the Webflow community there, and I will sign up for Twitter right now.
And he's in the Clone Comp Slack, so go sign up for Clone Comp and join the Slack, and you can connect with him on Slack. So Joe, what say you?
Yeah, great episode. A lot of passion, a lot of really good notes here, and I think that everybody that was reviewed on this show has a lot of next steps in a really big way. And I think every site, probably except for the last one, is a great candidate for resubmission. So please make these updates. Go put your heart into this V2 of your site and go and resubmit it.
Yeah.
And I one more thing. I thought it was really interesting. Sarkis said that the moment you start charging for something, you're now accountable for it. And hey, maybe that's why Finsweet gives everything for free. We just have no accountability. We're out. We don't care about anything. That's our easy road out.
Unless you want us to build, then you pay. Pay the man his money.
I wasn't expecting that. That's perfect. That's perfect. You know, that's the best way to put it. It's like anytime, the moment someone feels like it's not good enough, take the pricing down. Take the pricing down over the weekend, and no one can say it. And Josh, I just wanted to say, man, your work has been inspiration as well, man. Thank you for your feedback. I love your work on Webflow. Please keep it going. And I might choose not to participate this year, just to give you that chance at winning twice in a row at CloneCon.
I say you try to give him a run for the money, and we see who wins.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're trying to give away a free product.
Here's my bonfire.
Well, I'm very considerate.
All right, so what do we think? Do we do a little co-work today? Should we jump in the into the hangs for a couple minutes, or we got time? Should we jump into the co-work spot for? Let's do a few minutes.
I cannot, but
okay.
I cannot. I'll be there in spirit.
Okay, so it's finsweet.com/cowork. If you can make it, we'd love to see you there. Let's see, I'll post this in the comments right here so you all can jump in. And yeah, we'll end the stream, and we'll see anybody who can make it into the cowork for the hangout. See ya.
Goodbye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.